Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Phil, not that bad. As things are going well. Happy Friday out there in Listenerville. And we got a special guest today, so excited.
That's right. So, hey guys, we have a special guest, Owen Mesdag. Owen has designed some of the most game-changing outdoor gear in the world, from helping launch MSR's legendary water treatment products to creating breakthrough gear like the e-case when smartphones were just hitting the scene, and even traveling to places like Nepal and Guatemala to deliver life-saving technology. This is a true insider's look at how the gear we trust actually gets made. With years of experience at top brands like MSR, Thermarest, Platypus, Outdoor Research, Sea Line, Dometic, and more, this is going to be a master class in gear design, innovation, and turning passion into a global career. If you love outdoor gear, overlanding, or just want to know what it really takes to create the products that fuel adventure, you don't want to miss this. Owen, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So
now we're going to put him in the hot seat.
We're going to start out hot. People have woke me up this morning telling me that there's some big news about the Northwest Overland rally that's going to shock me, and I'll let you talk about it, Owen.
Okay. Well, I mean, first off, I mean, the rally itself has been going on for, I mean, how long have you been going? Since the beginning? It's been 13 years.
About 10 years.
10 years. But yeah, I think the rally, and the reason I think it's 13 is in 2012 was the first year I went, which is the first year it was in Plain, Washington. And my wife and I went. I think we'd heard about it, and we just bought our second Land Rover. So and we're like, let's go out to this rally. And we had just found out we were pregnant. And this is why this is a pivotal time. So we were sitting there at this rally, and I think there's probably like 5 or 6 vendors, maybe like 100 people, not even 100 cars, but like 100 people sleeping in a tent on the ground. And we just had a blast. It was just a nice thing to do. And then the very next year, the show got bigger, and we had a 6-month-old who went to the show. So we've had our son, who's now 13, has grown up at this rally. So the rally to us has meant a lot, and as much to us as I've heard now, it means to a lot of other people. And then in that time is with my time being at MSR and the things with water treatment, Ray has always reached out to have me teaching classes on water treatment or whatever. And then my son, when he was 7, I believe, taught his first class. So teaching water filtration to teaching kids. And it was, for me, that was a highlight. I think, look at all the years at the rally, I think when watching my son, a 7-year-old, teach a class to kids, and then having Ray bringing him up in front of the campfire being like, this is our youngest presenter, as he's thanking all the presenters. And Teo's now continued that for the last 5 years, teaching more classes. And I think that's in the essence is why I go to all the other expos as well. And I haven't seen one that's as accepting and just offering opportunities for people just to kind of share their stories, like the Northwest Overland Rally. So it's, if you've been, it's great. If you haven't been, I'm sure you've heard about it. It's a fan favorite for sure. So then to get right into too is earlier this year, Ray and Marianne that reached out to us and wondering if we would be interested in taking the rally over. And of course, it's a big responsibility, but such a love for the event that we of course wanted to take it on. So we've been putting all the efforts into it. The plan this year was a little bit of a copy paste, keep it going as it has in the past. Having Ray and everybody on board to kind of help transition into the year or into this year. And then with the plans to keep the lights on this year, and then already writing the playbook for next year for a bigger, better event. Not bigger in we're turning into an expo, just bigger as in a better platform for more people to tell their stories and share their knowledge and that kind of stuff. So we've been working very hard on that one, and it's been a learning experience. It's been an opportunity drinking from a fire hose for sure. But I already know most of the people anyway. But as of 2 days ago, we've been informed with situations beyond our control that we're going to have to postpone the rally. I'm still sitting here. I know that you and I've had the plan to talk today and stuff, but I did not realize that I'd be sitting here in this numb state of disbelief that this is the new reality. So
Yeah, I made some big plans with a bunch of people, and they basically told me the news. I was asleep. I was woken up to the news by a bunch of people, and I was in shock. Just like you, I've been going for over a decade, and Mike gets tired of me saying this, but I have always rated the Northwest Overland Rally as the #1 rally in the whole United States of America. So losing this year, it broke my heart.
Oh, I mean, as an attendee of every show, I mean, if I had gotten the call or the email saying that we're going to have to postpone the show, I would be super bummed out. And so to be the one that has to make those calls, I mean, it was really hard for me. So, so the details of it for the cancellation, I've actually known that we were having a problem with that. This might come up since Overland Expo West when I was talking to you guys last. The technical part of it, and this is boring conversation really, is it comes down to insurance providers. And we know no matter what you do in life, you've got to have insurance. And I think just the way 2025, it's not about this event or this insurance carrier. Everybody's changing policies and rewriting things. And we were at the expo, and our insurance provider, who's covered this rally forever, or at least the last many years, just informed us there was a policy change. And they go, "Are you guys still offering overnight camping and campfires?" And I was like, "Well, it's kind of the essence of the event." Yeah. And so they were like, "Yeah, it's a smaller firm." And they were like, for special events, they've changed their policy and they don't cover those items. No problem. We instantly started working with a broker and started working with the new insurance providers and getting this solved. The problem was the notice that we had came with not enough time to reinstate it. It was just simple math of the calendar, I guess.
So I guess I'll ask you the question I'm going to get 100 times. So is this it? Is Northwest Overland Rally over? What's the future?
Oh, yeah. Hell no. The Overland Rally is like we're already writing the playbook for next year. And I mean, the things we have planned is keeping it going, having it just I like to describe this rally as a platform for people to perform. It's not my rally. It's not anybody's rally. This is our rally. And the thing I love about it is I love the fact that this is where vendors come to relax. This is where people come to relax. This is where people plan their whole year. It's a pilgrimage for some to actually, it's a good excuse to pack all the gear into the car and use it, because this is practice. This is a learning space. And so we'd already, having been to the rally and enjoying all these classes, I mean, in a way, I wished for more sometimes. I wanted just more stuff to do or more diversity in knowledge. As soon as we were given the opportunity, immediately we started writing the playbook for better. I've been a product manager for a long time, and I look at the rally as a product for the people, and so you need to deliver a good product. And so despite the hiccup we have this year, it doesn't affect next year at all. So.
Okay. I'm trying to get Mike to show up next year. So,
first you got to get me out of Mexico. You got to tell me why. I mean, you have to give me a reason.
Have you been up here to Washington? Have you been to the east side of Washington?
Oh, I know the area pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. Beautiful. I mean, I live on the Seattle side of it where it's just beautiful, green and wet. But every time we go on camping trips, we drive right over the mountain to the east side. So
It's a huge pet peeve of mine that still to this time in history, it seems the world does not understand how beautiful Washington is. And it's like out of the 50 states, it's got to be in the top 5 for beauty.
Sure, Mike's going to disagree with that one because I
Oh,
know there's so many beautiful places in the state. I would just say like the fact that we live in Washington, the accessibility to to ocean and lakes and mountains and desert and like I mean you basically get so many diverse landscapes, all within just a few hours drive is just I mean it's a very special place. We're very privileged here.
So we're gonna get right into it, bro. We talk about everything. You said your game, right? So
I'm game.
So wait, backtrack 1 second. So for the listeners, because I want to go back to this. So the event was canceled for insurance problems.
That's it.
Because I know I'm going to get asked a million times, so I'm just being. How is it going to be different the next time? And let me ask an additional question: is this a bigger problem? In other words, am I going to, as a consumer out there, am I going to start worrying about all Overland events?
So I can only answer that a little bit, only because I've just only got, I've had 2 weeks worth of knowledge on this one. Is from what I've been working with. I mean, even this morning, I got another quote back. It seems across the board, there's a lot of just policy changing. And so all it is you just have to, when you sign up for a insurance application, you write in what you are. And Overland rallies they're special events. And so you end up in that category and you basically pay for your coverage. So in some ways, some of the coverage we found is the coverage is way, like the cost of coverage is just higher. You're just going to have to factor that in. And I've talked to a few other vendors. I've talked to, I even reached out to Emily from Expo just to, so she was aware. And I mean, the amount of support that came out of the woodwork to get for the North Weather Rally was just amazing. And just, that's amazing. That's like I say but it's not a problem to get the insurance, but it's obvious that things are changing. I've heard this across the board. And the biggest challenge for this year is trying to get everything done and transferred in such a short amount of time since it became into my hands to actually delivering the rally on the same weekend. Yeah. So I've got the phone call at the end of January with, hey, would you be interested in taking over the rally? Well, end of January is already like tomorrow. Like it's to try and plan an event is not a whole lot of time. So talking with everybody involved in the past, it was all hands on deck. We're going to, like I said, keep the lights on, copy paste, just keep it going. But with insurance and stuff, I have to switch over and write it up. Everything is in new names and new businesses, all that kind of stuff. And so they reevaluate everything. And that's actually what triggered all of this. So it wasn't.
And that's one of the things. I mean, I could tell you from even from my old days of running events in the Land Rover community, it starts becoming very I don't want to say cost prohibitive, but cost sensitive in a sense that, and I'm sure you've seen some of this in your various things that you've done where people bitch. I mean, that's part of life, right? People bitch no matter what. And they start bitching about the cost of events. I mean, I hear it all the time, particularly Overland Expo. That kind of venue is obviously very expensive. And they're people oftentimes on the outside do not understand the amount of money that it costs to run these events. And then they look at the price and they go, holy shit.
Yeah. Well, and I've been doing trade shows and Overland events for 25 years. I mean, I've worked for so many different brands out there, but I mean, it wasn't my budget that we were putting in these trade show booths at these events, but I was aware of what was being spent on them. And I remember in my early days at Outdoor Retailer with Cascade Designs, is finding out that some of these big booths, I mean, in an indoor space plus booth building, what the amount of money spent was literally the cost of a house.
Yeah.
In some areas. I mean, you're like, and it was just to rent a space for 5 days.
Yep.
And I always was shocked at that, but it wasn't my money. But we had to be, as a product manager and brand and developing stuff, you always had to be sensitive to what you brought in, because cost is that. So I've always known that, and now with Dometic is watching the expense of the expos kind of go up every year, and basically you're watching booths get smaller and smaller because people can't, instead of spending more, they're spending the same, but they're having to shrink because they can't spend more.
Right.
And so for the Northwest Overland Rally, is what I've learned now is, like, with some of the expenses, because now that it's my budget and my expense, is obviously it's going to price sense. It is price sensitive because now it's my responsibility. But for me, as the rally goes, is this rally will never turn into a financial burden for the attendees or the vendors. That's my plan. Is to plan a rally that, I mean, like, this is not an expo. This is not a trade show. This is an event to attend, and we are all investors in it. And so it needs to be acceptable for all of us. I mean, that's my plan all along. So, So,
good.
Yeah. No, but the rally as we move forward, we'll be fine. Like I'm saying, I'm talking with insurance companies right now, and so we'll get that. We'll get in contract this year for next year. Everything next year will be already solved this year. Dates will be already distributed this year. Vendors will already know where they're going to be parked, and hopefully we'll get presenters. And then as we roll into that January, February time, everyone then can use that time to know what they're going to do at the rally.
Yeah.
So just kind of a little sneak peek into the playbook next year is because I call it a platform, is for vendors, presenters, volunteers, anybody who's going to be there. One thing I'd like to do with the vendors is every vendor will have a time slot on the calendar to use as they want. So instead of just having a calendar and trying to fill it with random topics, is, let's say we've got 50 vendors, there's going to be 50 vendor slots on that calendar, and each one broken into the category of, like, is this navigation, or is this communication, or is this product or happy hour, whatever, is people can go and look and see what it is. But now every booth and brand has an opportunity to tell their story, share their knowledge, or just simply have a gathering. But now everybody will know, oh, now it's time to go over to, Mule Outfitters. Now it's time to go over to the Howl campfires and stuff like that. And so that's a little sneak peeks there.
So I want to talk about you now, Owen. Every time I've talked to you, we've had some great conversations about gear. You always seem to love talking about gear. What is it about the outdoor equipment that keeps you passionate after all these years?
I don't know. I don't know if I even have a single thing that keeps me passionate. It's like I wake up in the morning, it's like all of us, we love going outside. The gear we have is a tool for our adventure. And then if you're just someone like, I don't know, like a little kid who plays Legos, I mean, all they want to do is just play with the Legos. It's not about finishing the project. It's about, it's about the process. And being someone who's super into the outdoor industry, the gear you have is just part of the process of the adventure. And so I'm actually just always thinking of innovation and design and stuff. So I think a little bit deeper into each product, but you can show me a shiny flashlight and I'm just, everything's a shiny penny when it comes to gear. So
we want to understand how someone like you thinks. One of your earlier inventions was creating the e-case back when smartphones and e-readers were just taking off. What inspired that idea? How did you approach designing a product for emerging technology?
That was an accident, and I'll back up to like how I got in the industry in the first place. And so that e-case was an example of me getting in the industry in the beginning is I used to, when I was living down in Oregon, I was doing a lot of backpacking and didn't have a lot of money, but I knew that I could buy a backpack that I wanted. And it was just, it served its purpose, but I wanted it to do a little bit more so I can go a little bit farther. And there was a sporting goods store in town that had a repair shop in the basement. And so I used to go down there and I got to know the woman that ran it. She had a whole bunch of sewing machines down there, and I would talk to her and I go, "Hey, can I get this modified this way or that way?" And so we'd modify my backpack, but I'd have her do it. And then I got it my first. I wanted to get into mountain climbing, so Mount Hood was down there, and that was my new goal. I got a backpack, didn't like how it worked, took it down there, would cut the straps off, re-sewed it so it became the pack I wanted. And so that was constantly developing product that way, just changing it for this. Modifying it for the necessity of the adventure and my own personal taste. I then later moved to Seattle for school and for doing design and film and photography, because I just wanted to get, my goal in life was I want to be a high alpine cameraman, because I was back in the Warren Miller days. That's actually the first time I met Glenn Blake, who was just a super rock star guy on the screen, and now you just see him, he's standing in the booth at Expo West talking about his rooftop tent on his rock crawler. So it's just like, it's funny how this has come full circle. But when I moved to Seattle, I told myself that I'd only get a job in the outdoor industry, knowing that the schooling I was going to go to was for that. And if I could get a job in the outdoor industry, I would just be closer to the sport that I wanted to be into. I was applying for every floor position that you can get, REI, North Face, Patagonia, a bunch of them. And then one of them was outdoor research. And at the time I just needed a job to put myself through college, and outdoor research called me and offered me the job. So I was just working in the retail store. And about an hour later, North Face called me and offered me a job at their retail store. And I took the outdoor research one already. What I didn't know at the time walking in those doors is outdoor research was still a founder-owned company, and they did all of their design and all of their manufacturing and marketing and sales and warehousing all in the same building, right on First Avenue in Seattle. So immediately I walk upstairs, and all those sewing machines that I was using at that repair shop were standing in front of me on this production floor, and they were all in my access. And so I started modifying all my own equipment immediately and learn how to sew and to seam tape and how to put things together, and start creating my own products just on the side. And then now I had Rainier to focus on and climb there. So it was by, the luck of opportunity that was given to me by brands back in, the early 2000s, that I was able to keep, developing this knowledge. And so, like I was saying, I went to school with this to get a degree in camera work so I could be a cameraman. And I ended up excelling in the thing I already loved to do, and that was creating product. So I went on to actually doing a bunch of work in film, but then the product development just took off even faster. So worked at outdoor research for 5 years. Then I got a call from Cascade Designs, and that because I'd left OR, and they said, "Hey, we've got a project that we would love to have solved, and we've heard that you might be the guy who could solve it." And so they offered me a 4-week contract for this project, but they couldn't tell me what the project was until they hired me, because it was sensitive information. And I was like, all right. And at that time, I just wanted another outdoor brand on my resume. So they brought me in, and I started working on, it was a water filter that they were making that they were working on. And I can talk about this now because that water filter isn't around anymore. And in that project, they extended the contract to 6 weeks. That was basically an engineering grunt. That means I wasn't an engineer. I was the engineer's bitch to do all the work. And so, but I loved it. It was hands-on. And so also walking into MSR, Cascade Design, which is also on First Avenue, downtown Seattle, they did all of their engineering, all of their manufacturing, all of their own tool making, and testing everything right there in-house. And next thing you know, I went from every soft goods I could possibly make it out of research, now to all the tools you can make anything out out of metal to plastic, everything right there at MSR. So I just jumped into just my absolute second dream job. So that was opportunity again that I'd walked into. So, but that water filter project, I ended up solving it in 3 weeks. They said, well, we got you for 6 weeks. We'll keep you busy. They kept me busy for 7 months, and then they hired me. And then that turned into a 14-year career there.
I have a, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This is a personal question, curiosity. Living here, there are so many outdoor companies that are based from here. The only other place I can think of that comes close is maybe Utah, maybe Colorado. What is it about Seattle that draws so many outdoor industry companies to come here?
I don't know. I mean, it goes, I mean, you might even have to just trace it back to like Boeing. I mean, Seattle was known so much for just the industry, manufacturing and industry, and just like technology development going way, way back. And so there was the infrastructure and the warehouse space existed. And I think a lot of the people that that started these outdoor brands actually came from aerospace, and they were already engineers in a bigger for bigger companies that are way more technical, and either aged out or decided to leave it, or for whatever their programs were over. You got these entirely intelligent minds surrounded by mountains and outdoors. I know Ron Gregg, when he started Outdoor Research back in 1980 or 81, he was on climbing, I think, Mount Chuckson or Baker. Somebody out there knows the right answer, but him and his buddy, their feet got super wet and soaking wet and cold because they didn't have proper gaiters. So he's an engineer, came home and instantly designed the snow gaiters that we basically know today, and everybody else has copied. Was Outdoor Research #1 product was snow gaiters, and he was an engineer, and not an outdoor founder. Then MSR was founded by a guy that was also an engineer. It was testing product, and they found out he couldn't test enough good. There was not enough of testing all of his product, that there wasn't good product, so he just developed good product. And then like Thermarest, those guys were old Boeing engineers and created the first self-inflating mattress. So I think that's how Seattle ended up with so many founders creating the brands we know today.
So I have a question about all of that. I know every one of those companies that you've worked for. Matter of fact, some of them have even merged. They're part of the Cascade Group. I know all about them. I've even toured the buildings. Will there ever be, considering tariffs, considering the economy, considering technology today, will we ever have another Outdoor Research, a place just buys a building and starts sewing stuff, MSR, will we have a small company like that emerge again?
I think those for sure. And I'm going to use a new brand that's out there, is like Howell Campfires. Are you familiar with them?
No.
So Howell Campfire, there's the super cool propane fire pit that you're seeing at all the Overland rallies.
Oh, yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah. So I got to know those guys a few years ago, I think in 2020 or 21, I believe. Met them in Denver at the Outdoor Retailer when the show was there. And we were sitting and talking, and they were talking about this new idea they had. And it was what you guys see today. Those guys had an idea, living in Denver, brought the right people together and created a product in-house, and it's made in America. It was designed, thought up in America, designed in America, manufactured and sold all in America. So I absolutely think it's possible because we're watching it happen in current times. I think what's happening with tariffs is, I think it's the right thing to bring more manufacturing back to America. Everybody's been saying that, the entire time I've been in the industry for 25 years. They're like, no, we should do more manufacturing in America. And absolutely. The thing with manufacturing in China or any country over there is the entire world has invested in technology development in those areas. I mean, the manufacturing technology, the components we have when it comes to like the hollow fiber out of a filter that we use as a life-saving device worldwide. I mean, that comes out of Asia. We don't make that in America. But the world invested in that technology. I think we will always we'll always tap into the best tech, but I do see us bringing in resources and doing more manufacturing in America, and then we'll develop that tech. But
Okay. Since you mentioned China, I sent you a video. Have you had an opportunity to watch it?
is it the one with the drones?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay. China, it appears as though, has really, really, really taken control of the drone universe.
Mhm.
I had a whole show planned last week. We ended up not having a show last week because of scheduling conflicts. I had a whole show about drones in that particular show and the possibilities of what could be done with drones. And in just that short week, the world has changed. Ukraine bombed Russia. So I had to kind of flip that subject matter around. I still wanted to show the abilities of the drones, but now thinking about what I showed you about the abilities that they can do with the drones, and then on the other side, what the little man can do with just a basic drone, and you being in production, manufacturing, design, do you see drones moving forward still being a product that a consumer will buy? Will it be more restrictions? I'll just leave it open. What do you think about all of that?
I don't know. I think the answer to that might be a bit above my pay grade. It's not I think drones are cool. I think they're a cool tool for photography and exploration and recreation. Watching what's happening with them for just entertainment. I mean, for one, just being here, 4th of July fireworks and forest fires, obviously we want to try to prevent that. And now you're seeing some of these celebrations being replaced with drone shows. I think that's actually pretty cool. I mean, it's a great use of technology to bring entertainment to people, and it's, I mean, the creativity that they're pulling off with it, I find amazing. I think drones as a tool, obviously it's being used as a tool for positive and negative. I don't know. I don't really have enough authority to really have too strong of an opinion on that. But on some of the drone stuff I've worked with some friends that are doing some humanitarian, and being able to, in some certain countries, like in Africa or certain areas in South America, is drones are definitely being a tool to bring in medical supplies into areas that don't have the basically the road infrastructure that's complete or safe or whatever, or too rugged, as now they can actually just transport medicines or blood or those kind of things back and forth. And so I've been fortunate to be able to know some people that are involved in that. And I think that's a pretty cool use for it.
Mike, I'm going to start this with you, and then Owen, you chip in. Just a couple of weeks ago in Shenzhen, China, they had the Shenzhen International UAV Expo, which is basically the equivalent of Overland Expo for drones. But I would like to give you some information about this year's attendance. Attendance nearly doubled from 6,000 to 6,000 this year versus 3,300. That's an 82% increase. 103 countries showed up from 54 in 2004, which is almost 50% increase. But that's not the story to me. This year saw a sharp rise in government agencies, law enforcement, and military delegations. In addition to that, there were behind the scene meetings where there were discussions between nations about establishing routes and negotiating cross border flight rights. Obviously, drone has become big business, but governments and law enforcement and municipalities are finding that drones are the future. Also, we have AI being introduced into drones. Well, into everything, but we're talking about drones. Do you see this being good for our economy or bad for our economy? Because on one side, I could see us having a robust drone market, people working in that industry. Yet on the other side, with the AI implications, I could see some of these drones taking away jobs. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think right now, the number one use for a drone is like just about everything else in the world is to kill people. It's the truth. I mean, there are more drones being used in military applications than you and I going out and shooting drone video that's playing behind my head right now on the screen. I think that one of the reasons that you saw all these other countries join in on the Overland Expo of drones is that they're sending in their military, their police, their various things. Look, it's been on national stage. We've been watching a war between Ukraine and Russia largely being fought with drones, right? On both sides.
And filmed by drones. That's how we're watching it.
Exactly. And filmed by drones. So, I think that's unfortunately if you were asking Phil, how does it affect the U.S. economy right now? Although there are drones that are manufactured in the United States, they're all pretty much exclusively for either military applications or for largely for agricultural stuff is made here to do field fertilizing and whatnot. But for commercial, I call them quasi, consumer, prosumer use, China's got the control on that market. Like, I mean, we've talked about this on past podcasts. I mean, between you and I, Phil, I mean, we have, I don't know how many drones we own, a lot, and they're almost all DJI, right? They're all Chinese drones.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really at the forefront of developing the market. And I think that you asked earlier, I know wasn't the question you asked me, but do I think that they're going to try to put in restrictions and controls on drones going forward? I absolutely. I see that coming for sure, that the government wants to get involved in everything in our life. So
yeah.
It's not a stretch to say that they're going to start controlling that market.
I'm predicting a year from now, it'll be easier to get a driver's license than a drone operator's license.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was kind of my thought too, is when you say, is it going to take over job opportunities or something in America? It's like, to be honest, I don't know a lot of jobs that people have as using drones. But at some point with the use of AI is like, if we're going to use them for any commercial use, I mean, these topics, I always look at them from a product development or an adventure standpoint, just because they're a tool for progress. Is how I see them, and I'm in a good way. Is at some point, like, we know some brands are trying to do drone deliveries or whatever. Is it used to be thought as like, oh, I'll go get a drone license and I can go get that as a job and fly this. But nowadays, what's going to happen with AI is that a facility could have the drone operation, and they'll just plug in a drone operator won't even be an operator. They'll just plug in an address, and then there'll already be an algorithm and a flight path will do the whole work. So I think drone operators are the ones who are being paid by it in a commercial sense. They'll be affected, but I think hobbyists won't.
Yeah.
So one of the other tools for drones, which I'm seeing, which I think is cool, is I was having a conversation with somebody. I've seen drones being used for photography, in a sense of being a light box crane. putting flash bulbs and light boxes where you could never have one before, and actually creating some really cool effects.
Yep.
When you see them used like that, that's the stuff I pay attention to. Is how can we creatively use a tool that for a positive.
We've talked about that. Even like, I just came back from an overland trip on the BDR, and we in the old days I used to drive my truck to the side of the road, set up the tripod, put a camera up, whatever. We do everything by flying the drone out the window now. Of the vehicle and put it, stationary cameras. Like we use them on the road at 2 feet above ground. I mean, the drone is turned into a multi-use camera for everything. Right. Not just aerial videography, right?
Mm-hmm. You set it up, drive past it, and then tell it to come home.
Exactly. That's what I did all last week.
I'm with you guys on all the phones, fun stuff, photography and stuff like that. But regardless of how I feel about it, drones are dual task UAVs, and I foresee as time goes on, especially with the meetings that I just told you about, where they're basically negotiating low-level airspace and border crossings and stuff like that, I see moving forward a lot of transporting of illegal contraband up to nuclear warheads or the things necessary to produce a nuclear warhead. I can see some country that we were never ever worried about getting nuclear arms in their hands, having the ability to get them as long as they got the money.
Yep.
or the resources or natural resources or whatever to pay for them.
The expansion of the drone and the realization is upon us. I can tell you last week when I crossed back into Mexico, it was the first time I ever got asked if I had a drone on board. And so because if you know the law, it's illegal to have it's not illegal to have, it's illegal to use a drone if you're not a resident or a citizen down here in Mexico. But they were asking because, I even saw Mercado Libre, who's the equivalent of Amazon down here, is testing drone deliveries down here in Mexico. So the expansion of that market and the realization that there are multi-use tools is rapidly growing. And because of that, like you said, Phil, I mean, it's only a matter of time. I'm sure it's happening already, where you've got the bad actors, like a.k.a. the cartel or whoever else, they're going to be just flying drugs over the border with drones. Right? But drones are nice because they're super small. They can fly at low elevation. They're fairly quick, particularly quick for their size, and super mobile and cheap. I mean, the bottom line is they're pretty inexpensive.
Right.
The only concerns I have as far as security here in America is I think we're extremely vulnerable. We just a few months ago, the biggest news was how swarms of drones were flying over military bases on the East Coast.
Look at a couple of days ago where Ukraine attacked Russia they didn't fly these drones into Russia from Ukraine. I mean, some of these were 1,000 miles away. They smuggled these things in because they're tiny. They set them up at a nearby facility or I guess what I read, in the back of a truck or something, and open the roof of the truck. And next thing you know, boom, they go and they bomb. And they don't even have to bomb. They don't set these things up even to do that. They just set them up to crash into explosives, right? So, I mean, it's not high tech.
Yeah, they even came up with a solution for the, I forget the name of it, when they send a signal to disarm your drones.
Yes, they were using just regular. They weren't using Starlink or internet. They were using cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And now they're being fiber optic.
Yep. And like you said, the guy controlling those drones, I don't know how many were in that. I think I read 140 drones were deployed or something. They were all being controlled from one location, probably through AI, back at some building in Kiev or somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. My domestic concern with drones is like back to the delivery thing. If it becomes common for someone's going to Grubhub their dinner and it's going to get delivered by drones, I enjoy my peace and my my airspace above my house is the fact that I'm going to see just all of a sudden drone. It's going to be like Back to the Future too, when all the cars are in the sky. It's like that. Of course, I worry about. I mean, well, I mean, you took it all the way there to the nuclear warhead. I'm still worried about people ordering Grubhub. So
yeah, well, and that's legit though, because like you said, if you're in a neighborhood where on any given night 40 people order Grubhub, can you imagine the amount of traffic that's flying over your house?
Mike, you just gave an idea. Don't.
Oh, someone's already written this business plan. So,
so let's move on to something else. We're going to stick with drones a little bit. My question for you guys is about there's a possibility that Trump is going to administer a total ban on Chinese trade. So that would obviously include drones. I'm just asking for a quick prediction. Do you think it's going to happen or not? Are we going to see a drone ban in America?
No. Well, you might see more licensing involved with drones to be able to fly them. You're not going to see a ban on China or importation from China. It's never going to happen.
I was going to start with the total ban from China. It can't happen because I'm going to just bring up there's certain elements, like back to the water filter. There are a couple countries out there like in South Korea that actually produces a good product, but so many actually like life-saving medical products that are at the component level come from China. They could never ban it. It would shut down the whole country. So,
Owen, you're probably the most masculine man I've ever met. So this is why I'm giving you this question.
You got to get out of
The Democratic Party is reportedly investing $20 million to win over male voters ahead of the next election cycle. They are investing this money to learn how to talk to men. I'll just leave it as that. What do you think?
I don't know.
What magazine you read, Phil?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know where to go with that one.
Well, can you spend $20 million and learn how to seep into the mind of a man?
No, I'm going to tell you why. I'll be the bad guy here. I'm going to tell you why. Because you summed it up. You defined this from the beginning. You started the conversation by saying the Democratic Party. So by definition, the problem with both, I'm going to tell you, the problem with politics in America right now is that they're only looking for answers that back up what their opinions already are. Mm-hmm. So they're not willing to listen outside of their own box. So they could spend $200 billion, and they're not going to listen to their results, because I mean that's the reason they lost in the first place. I mean. No, and by the way, that's not a party thing. Both parties are like that. They're so set in the way that no, they're not going to learn.
Yeah, and I'd have to answer it. I mean, maybe it's insensitive to say it, but I mean, yeah, on the both party stuff is, I'm not one for politics. I'm not going to just root for one side or the other. In my opinion, I think Americans deserve better than the options they've been provided.
That's an understatement.
And so that's how I look at it. But the thing is like, if they're going to invest in communicating with a man, is like, I want to know what their definition of a man is. So
that's a good point too.
That's a very good point.
So I know that I've got a son, and I know that there's, people talk about toxic masculinity, but I mean, I teach him to be tough, and everybody teaches everybody, in their own way. And my son is as sensitive as he is as tough. I promote both sides because it's all important. But he knows how to swing an axe, and he knows how to sew on a patch. So it's like.
So let's take the word toxic masculinity, because that's one of their favorite words. they spend this $20 million. Are they going to look for a new word to say the same thing, or or are they going to learn that it's not toxic? That's what loses me about the whole thing.
Toxic masculinity, and like you're asking me to talk about politics, which is my least favorite topic. So keep my words few, but toxic masculinity is a word that is used by people that are offended by it. Yeah. An offense can't be given; it can only be taken. Right. And so there will always be a new word that someone doesn't like. And so I think toxic masculinity is just I mean, it's a stupid definition anyway.
I mean, they defined it, Phil, as, I mean, that's the word they're using for the people that they were not able to get the votes from, that they claim voted the way that they did because they listened to too much Joe Rogan, right? I mean, that's the reality of it. They're not able to wine and dine that section of the population, if you will, because they've not been able to understand it, I think.
Well, I think there's something missing from the whole conversation, and it seems like both sides are scared to really just say it. Boys are animals. We have testosterone. We wanna put our thing in things. We want to fight. We want to run. We have this energy. It is frustrating to sit in a class for hour upon hour with no way to get that energy out. That's just reality.
And the modern world has gone farther and farther away from the ability to get the energy out. Like when I was a kid, we'd go. My mom would send us to the backyard somewhere with a bunch of wooden swords or something, and said, "Go, why don't you guys go beat each other?" You know what I mean? We'd run around in the woods or whatever we were doing. And now I think with technology, unfortunately we've all gravitated to the sticking the cell phone in front of your face, and
I know.
But my point is, you can't legislate, you can't wordsmith nature. No matter what you do, a boy is going to be born. He's going to have testosterone. He's going to be what I just described. You're just making him look bad by labeling him something, in my opinion.
So, like I was saying, I've got a son. He's in public school, and I totally recognize, like, public school today is not the public school I went to. I mean, we played on the playgrounds I grew up on were way more dangerous than the playgrounds they grew up on. So I don't. So you can put in $20 billion into solve something that they'll never recreate. Just the raw ability, the raw choice that children were given to entertain themselves like we had.
Yeah.
And so with Teo, I sent him off to school. It's a good social experiment. He's got his friends, but when he comes home, I make sure to look at what he's learning and make sure to fill in what isn't being taught anymore. I mean, even down to making sure he eats good food, and I'm happy that we can provide that for him, because I know not a lot of kids get that. But then when it comes to just putting in the extra effort of getting outdoors, I mean, going all the way back to, hey, Owen, why do you go to the Overland rally? Why did you take over the Overland rally? For me, I mean, that is that secondary education that all these kids are getting. The plan, not to hijack this topic, but to get on to what kids need, is plans for next year there's going to be a lot more kid focused things. And every kid activity, by the way, next year, adults can join too, but because we're all kids, is getting more of this hands-on stuff, when encouraging him to teach classes at the rally wasn't about just filling the calendar. It was about empowering him to be confident enough to stand up there. Yeah. And over time, I mean, he was nervous. I mean, but if he can do it, I can do it. Like, here I am talking to you guys on TV, on a camera, which is my least favorite thing to do. I like talking to you in person, but now here we're, back here we're sitting our digital friends, right, which is weird, but somehow normal. But anyway, but yeah, I think kids, they just need more output, because we're all cavemen at heart, boys and girls. Girls, there's certain things that they would just naturally want to do. I think girls are as tough as boys, and generally tougher first.
Yep. Yep.
And then they all come to age and they find their space. So I let girls be girls. I let girls be boys. Same with boys, but they are different. And I know somebody out there just pissed off that I said that, but
yeah, no.
I mean, it's like I'm different than you. You know.
Yep.
So.
Why is Trump's push for gold standard science having such resistance by the Democratic Party?
Say that again. For gold?
The gold standard science. So
define gold standard science.
Okay, so I'm gonna surmise what it said on Washington, their website, the president's website. Basically, they are saying that there's no room for opinions. It will be based off of basic sciences. We'll have basic fundamental ideas based off of scientific theory.
It sounds like it sounds like they've already decided the opinion of the results.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and the second piece of that is, I think by definition, Americans in particular are distrustful of, well, they're distrustful of government, but they're also been made to be distrustful of science.
Well, the people in charge currently and in the past were people that weren't people in medicine. So it's rare to have an actual medical doctor in charge of these things. It's rare.
And even then, a medical doctor still has the potential of having a slant, right? So they're human beings, and they're still going to have opinions. The medical sciences in general is not a perfect science, anyways. So something's wrong with you. You go get a second opinion. Right?
Well, I mean, and science by nature is always evolving anyway, and it should be. So,
what's that?
Science is an evolving topic anyway, and it should be. That's the whole point of science: is the more you learn, the more you know.
That's right.
Which then it just continues. So you can't. So gold standards of like science. It's like fact science.
Yeah, it's
scientific fact. It's like, oh, we hit the end and that's it. The end.
So I think this is an oblique attack on, and a very strategic oblique attack on gender studies and climate change. There are a lot of.
Are you saying it's an attack by Trump's administration?
By Trump to have a gold standard. I think months or a year down the road, they're going to use this gold standard science to make more concrete the idea of gender and what defines gender. And if it's not for that, I definitely think it's for climate change. There are a lot of people who feel like they're scientists who they give their opinion more than anything based on science when it comes to gender and climate. They feel like I'm one of those people as far as like with climate. I believe history has more to do with climate change than us. We definitely have something to do with it, but I think it's minute. If you study history and geology and those things, it's readily available. Yes. So
yeah, but that's you being open-minded, and I think that's the difference.
Yeah, exactly, Phil. You're not allowed. You're not allowed to be open-minded. That's where you're making a mistake.
And I think humans have a lack of humility. We think we're the greatest thing that ever happened. And
I was about to say,
we're going in the big scheme of things. We are going to be a blip on the radar.
First of all, when we do destroy the environment and the climate, we didn't destroy it. We destroyed it for our own sustainability. We didn't destroy Earth. We have zero chance of destroying Earth. It's not going to happen.
Earth will be fine. It's just we'll just ruin it just enough for us.
That's right.
And then we're out. And then the Earth will be fine. So
a few million years from now, they'll be digging up fossils of us and our inventions and stuff, and we'll be looked at as a a very primitive civilization.
Likely.
Yeah.
Okay, Owen, evolution or creation? You don't have to go into it.
I'm not going into it.
Okay.
I love Phil's.
I had to ask. We were talking about science. Okay, so do you think a scientist can be effective if he is religious based?
Well,
Or
science.
no, maybe more God based, because you can be religious based and not be God based.
All right. Well, I mean, science is a broad topic, so yeah.
Okay.
I think you can do both.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have an opinion.
It's a way you define something. Like I could take the theory of evolution, right? And I could say, Darwin's theory on whatever. That in itself does not necessarily preclude the quote Christian faith, if you will, because it's semantics. It's all about time frame and how long something took and all this other stuff. So I think there's a coexist possibility.
All right, guys.
I agree with that. That's technically my answer. It's such a big topic that's divisive.
It's a big topic.
I don't like being on this one side or the other of things.
So I'm honestly fucking with you.
Yeah.
Good.
By the way, that's Phil's job on this podcast.
Yes.
He does this.
Yes.
No, this is my initiation for all
I'm used to it right now. He'll throw something from so far in left field and you go, what in the hell did you just ask that question for?
Yeah.
So on the serious side, Owen, is there any last things you want to say to the audience, to the Northwest Overland fans, anything like that? Any last words?
Well, I hope they all know. So since the news came out, I called every single vendor personally to let them know. I didn't email them to just kind of break the news, and we talked to, and every single conversation was like at least 15 minutes long. And the support coming back there, everyone was, of course, bummed out, but understood. And that's been a very positive thing. So I just want everybody to know that despite this, the rally is in good hands. The transition came way too late. The transition should have started in August, to be honest, and then we would have had it all wrapped up and ready by December. Like I said, I've been doing trade shows for a long time, and I've been to all these rallies. I know how it goes, but the actual operation politics, you have to bring in so many other people, and they only have one role, and you need them all. It's like herding cats. You need them all to work out, and you have to pay each one of them, kind of stuff. So that was kind of a difficult thing to do because, like I said, I got a call at the end of January. It took all of February to get the paperwork transferred over, which left, March and April, May, so 3 months to get everything going, it's a year-long project crammed into 3 months. I do product development, and you want one of these. This is the e-case. This is 18 months. You want a water faucet. This thing is at least 18 months. So, and an event is a product, and it takes years and years worth of development, and then you get 1 year to deliver the next version of that product. So, I just want everybody to know that if I'm disappointed and I'm heartbroken that we're not putting a show together this year. In some ways, I have no relief that it's not happening. But this was going to be a little bit smaller show. We were on the neighboring lot, which was not my favorite. So, in some ways, maybe we don't have to endure those things, and we're just going to skip a year and just come back to a bigger, better show. And it was worth the wait. That's how I look at it now.
Things are meant to happen, and it's going to come back bigger and better.
Yeah. So that's how I look at it. Things are meant to happen. My foot is not coming off the gas at all. I'm already, we're just going to start focusing right now. And my goal is to reach out to every vendor and still communicate often. is throughout the year, just so everybody knows what's coming and they're excited for it. There's a lot of trade shows going on. There's a lot of rallies going on. They're everywhere. I get told like, well, oh, the Northwest
But they
Overland
ain't like the Northwest Overland rally. Let's be clear on that. There's nothing like the Northwest Overland rally, period.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, they're like, hey, this is so close to this rally or so close to that rally. And I go, hold up. This was the only rally and everybody else showed
right.
So just remember that. So
right.
The Northwest Overland rally will never be in competition with other rallies. I know Overland, they've got their new big thing coming up. That's a new event on the calendar. The Overland Expos, they added SoCal this year. So there's more and more and more. My only goal is we're gonna throw a great event, and we're just gonna be the one that people prefer to go to.
I love it.
So
how do people find you, Owen, and how do people get updates on keeping up on what's going to happen next year?
So we are if you're going on to the Northwest Overland Rally website right now, it's absolute garbage. I apologize to the people who I know who put it together for saying that, but it's not. It needs to be better. It needs to be more with it for today. So we'll be developing a new website that's going to just and you'll basically watch the painting get painted as we move along the year, as we, start broadcasting and you'll see the schedule get developed and the highlights of things to come. Is keep an eye out for that. Still use the northwestoverlandrally.com website. If you log in now and in the next 2 months, you're not going to get much, but look for it. And then obviously then email me anytime. I check the email box is open. The moment I open my computer, it's there, and I'll communicate with people. And social media. The goal now is to bring in some social media help. I love Instagram. I click on it every day. Do I post every day? No. So I got to get better at that, and I'm going to bring in some support there. But the Northwest Overland Rally, it would seem like there was always kind of this peak right around rally time to promote the rallies coming. And as soon as the rally's over, it just drops off all year. And so what we want to do is I'd like to take that time. We got 52 weeks in the year. We generally have 52 vendors. Can we highlight a vendor a week and just kind of say, hey, these are the people that come? And there's a lot of small brands out there. You brought up, can we bring more manufacturing and who's doing what new? So can we promote some of the smaller guys and help expand their platform with a larger reach through this? 100%. That's actually going to be one of our goals. And there's so many other social media platforms out there that produce so much good content that maybe not everybody follows. I'd love to talk to Justin at Factor 55 and just repost some of his stuff because his content's so good. And just keep doing that. It's just kind of keep it fun, and that way people know what to expect when the rally finally does show up. And then prior to the rally is then we start promoting the events of the rally. So just keep a constant cadence is my hope.
Cool. Mike, you got any last words?
No, it sounds good. I'm excited. You'll get me out of Mexico to come up next year.
All right. I'm going to write you down and say you're going to be there. So
that's right.
You can bring the turtle.
I will. I'll bring the turtle too.
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.